Good afternoon. This is Mondo Homunculero. Welcome to my podcast. It has been a while, and I know anybody who was listening before, you may not be up with this, but I will post links to various social media so you have an opportunity to listen to what I say. Okay, so we know that there was an assassination attempt on Trump yesterday. It was unsuccessful. It was a deplorable act of violence. We don't condone acts of violence at all in any way, shape, or form. We don't condone acts of political violence, and there have been many. Okay. We know that the greatest threat, terrorist wise, in the country these days has been domestic terrorism. Now, the shooter has been identified. He was a nursing home employee in Pittsburgh, suburban area. He was a registered Republican, and he had explosives in the vehicle he drove to the rally, which was an hour from his home. He used an AR-15 type rifle. His name was Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. And we don't know what the motive was. No one knows. That's not been reported yet. They're still doing a lot of investigation as to what the cause was. Now, well, you have to say a few things here because everybody's talking about unity. The Republicans have come back, and so we need to be unified. Well, that's true. We need to be unified against violence and gun violence in particular. That's not what they're talking about. They want us to be unified behind the former convicted felon Trump. That's what they want us to be unified behind. They want us to unify behind him because they think he's a tough guy. I would bet money in Las Vegas that as Trump was shot, he went into shock. And when he got up and he raised his fist in the air like he was some kind of a left-wing radical, which he's not, it was an act of in shock defiance. I don't think that's something that he would have done had he been in his normal faculties. I really don't, because I don't think the man is courageous at all. He's a bully. He's caused nothing but trouble in the country. And so it is surprising that something like this didn't happen with him sooner. And although we don't want these types of things to happen, we don't want people to get shot, whether we like their politics or not, whether we like them as people or not. We don't want them to get shot. We don't want the cops to have to shoot criminals if they don't have to. Sometimes they absolutely have to, just like this guy, this shooter. It appears as though he got off several shots, 5 to 8 rounds. He was able to get off, and he was using an AR-15 type rifle, probably a 223, a 5.56 caliber weapon. So he got off several shots, and then the sharpshooter, we're not sure, we were told that it was Secret Service or maybe it was the Pennsylvania State Police, took him out, shot him in the head, and took him out. Okay. So that had to be done because he was going to keep firing, and he killed one person and wounded a couple of others. And that was not good. Besides Trump, he wounded a couple of other people. Okay. So Trump's okay. His ear got clipped. He got grazed. It's terrible that it happened. And to me, there's two bad things here. The worst thing is he got shot. That was an attempt to kill him. The second bad thing is that the Republicans are going to try to turn this into a political optic. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want them to be able to martyr this guy because I tell you what, he is not worthy of martyrdom. He's a convicted felon. He's running for president and probably shouldn't be. And we don't want him getting any juice out of this, even though he's going to. He's going to get some juice out of this. And we don't want to see that happen. If you're, I tell you what, a lot of us are against him getting into office again. We don't want him in office. We don't want him as the president of the United States. We don't want him there. And he's ushered in, even though he denies it. His politics have been transferred over to Project 2025, which is basically an authoritarian treatise on how the government's going to work if he gets reelected. So it's very important that he doesn't get reelected. We don't need him to be reelected. Most of us don't want him to be reelected. Um, he hasn't done good for the country. He didn't really do anything for the majority of Americans. He gave the tax cut to the billionaires, okay, and that helped add another $7 trillion of debt to the economy. He also had a very poor, a failed COVID-19 policy that helped result in the death of many people. We can't say it exactly resulted in the death of this or that many people. However, his policies did not help. He was not a good pandemic president. He wasn't good for that. The only thing he was good for was spewing nonsense. And he wasn't even reading his briefings. I don't know if most of you know that or not. Trump was not reading his briefings in foreign policy and domestic policy. He just had his own idea how he wanted to, quote, run, unquote, the country, because he wanted to be the chief executive of the country and have unlimited power and also complete immunity from anything he wanted to do. In other words, he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, whenever he wanted to do it, and have no consequences other than being able to do more. That's what he wants. That's what Project 2025 is all about. And it wants to get rid of the bureaucracy that's in the administrative state. What's it going to replace it with? It's going to replace it with a bunch of do-nothings that are going to favor business over the populace. That's right, business over people. That's what this is all about. This is all about businesses controlling our economy, which they pretty much already do, and also about taking away our rights in accordance with their business plans. We don't want that. Businesses would not exist without labor. There would be very few businesses and very little disposable income from the mass of people without labor. We know that. The Republicans don't believe that. They want to enslave us. They want to extend wage slavery. Okay, they don't want to increase the funding for our entitlement programs. Now, I argue about Medicare and Social Security because these are things that many of us, self-included, have paid in for many years. Myself, over 50 years. And I do get my Social Security check, and I do work besides that because it's not enough to sustain my monthly bills. So I have to work, even though I get a nice check that a lot of people would be grateful to have. I'm going to say this. We don't want people in there that are only out to be wealthy because there's not room for everybody to be a millionaire. There probably is room for everybody to live comfortably within their means by crook or whatever, by crook or snuck. No, by whatever means. Meaning, it all shouldn't be maybe through entitlement programs. Of course not. They should be able to work, earn a livable wage. Prices, the big thing that's hurting a lot of people right now is the living cost of rent or mortgage. These costs are very high. Rents are sky high. Places, for instance, here in the area where I live, in the Phoenix area, in the central Phoenix area, the rents used to be for a two-bedroom apartment anywhere from $550 to $850 a month. Now they're $2,400 a month. Now, who can afford that? 3 or 4 people working together? Yeah, they can afford that, right? Yeah. But what if you have a little family and one of the partners isn't able to work? Then you're going to have to make, if you want to have a livable income, you're going to have to take home over $50,000 a year to make rent, pay your utilities if they're not prepaid, to pay for any type of transportation, insurance, healthcare. You're not going to be able to make it very well. You need affordable rent. Rents being 3 or 4 times what they ought to be are ridiculous. And these people that these property managers and these property owners, they can't tell me that their mortgage went up from $600, $700, $800 a month to $2,500 a month. No, they're doing some profit gouging. That's what they're doing. They're profiteering off of the whole goddamn thing, and it's wrong. Now, I indulged in some real estate speculation and flipped a couple houses, things like that. It wasn't for me. It wasn't the type of investment, even though I made money at it. It wasn't the type of investment I want to make. I don't want to be a real estate investor. Okay. Um, but what I do want to see, I want to see my fellow citizens be able to afford rent. I mean, really afford rent. In other words, not more than 25% of their take home income per month for rent. So if you make $2,000 a month take home, what's 25%? That's less than 500, that's $400, right? Well, it's just not, that's not going to happen. So two things have to happen. Wages have to go up and rent has to come down. And it's not happening. And not happening very well. Yeah, okay, the rents come down a little bit. Now, some other prices have gone down, gas prices, food prices. People are under a lot of misunderstandings. A lot of people think that these things are all under the control of the federal government. Well, the federal government can do price controls, but they have not proven to work very well. So that's not a good approach. What we need cooperation from industry. For instance, gas prices. Come on, $3 a gallon. Come on. The problem with gas is the supply is controlled by OPEC. Whether the gas is domestically produced or not. The only way around that is to build our own refineries and for governments, yeah, state, local, federal governments to procure gasoline and sell it to the public. Oh, but we can't do that because that's socialism. Well, you want cheap gas? That's the only way you're going to get it. Because trust me, OPEC, the Koch brothers, the big oil and gas companies, they're not going to do it. They're going to keep that price up there as long as they can because they know or they believe that they have a limited supply, when that may not be true either. Might not be true. At any rate, we need to move away from it. We need to take sustainable energy and create energy for vehicles that don't need to be run exclusively on gasoline. In other words, internal combustion engine. Now, that's about 18% of what adds to greenhouse gas. The other part is agriculture, meaning raising livestock. Your cattle and sheep are belching out methane. Your pigs are defecating, and methane is coming off of their feces. Same with chickens. So all these are producing about another 20% or more of greenhouse gases, and that somehow needs to be curtailed. Well, one way to do it is to raise and eat more plants. Yeah, I know you don't like it. I like my meat as much as a lot of other people do. I love eating meat dishes. They're not that good for me, I have to admit, but that's what's going on. So it's going to be better for everybody to do it that way. And it's better for my personal health and yours too to have a diet that's primarily based in plants. Okay. So there's those things happening as well. Now, weather is changing. The climate is changing. People want to deny that and they don't want to believe that that's happening. Well, it's okay. You can believe whatever you want to. Guess what, though? It's happening. And sea level rise is happening faster than they want to deny it is. And, it's going to put some places that we like to go and hang out now are going to be underwater in a few years. I might be dead by the time that happens, but that's probably what's going to happen. Now, here's the other thing. There's a lot of increase in summer heat. For instance, here in Phoenix area, we've been over 110 quite a bit since June. I think we may set a record for days over 110. We may set a record for days over 114. We've had a lot of days that are 115, 117, even 118. Yeah, we have. And our nighttime lows are hovering around 88 to 91 degrees as well. And that's way higher than it ever used to be. Now, a lot of that has to do with the high daytime temperature, but also the massive heat sink that we have in this urban community with all the asphalt and concrete and buildings that don't reflect heat properly, instead of absorb and then release the heat in the evening. So that keeps things a lot warmer. Now, if the daytime temperature was a lot cooler, that would be a different story, but it's not, and it's not going to go down, I'm afraid to tell you. So, you guys, I hope you guys listen to this and take it to heart because what's happening is you've got people who want to run the country who only care about profit. They want their profits to maximize and to come quite a bit from industries associated with energy and energy consumption. Now, what does that do? Well, it basically kills the rest of us. That's what it does. In the long run, it kills us. The other thing is these goddamn Republicans are belly aching about immigration. Sick of it. Tired of hearing about this. I'll tell you why. I have lived in Arizona most of my life. It's where I was born. We've always had illegal immigrants. We've always had them. They've always been here. There's always been a lot of them. When agriculture wasn't getting forced out of our area here by that mad rush to urbanize and suburbanize, we were using a lot of farm labor that came from Mexico. They would come up here during the during the harvesting seasons and help harvest whatever plants, right? They would do that, and then they would go home after that. They would send money home during that time. Then it kind of switched over a lot to construction. A lot of these workers were coming up working in the lodging industry. They were illegal. Okay, they committing the misdemeanor of being an illegal alien, and they were working in the lodging industry. They were working in the food industry. They were working in the construction industries. And what they're doing is they're really helping the economy. They're adding millions and millions of dollars to our local economy. Now, of course, they send a lot of money home. What does that do? That helps people back home and keeps them there. And they get to live a good lifestyle because they have family members that are working here and sending money home. The thing that's wrong here, these people should all be charged taxes and they should all be registered in Social Security so they can pay into Social Security so our fund stays robust. Now, look, you're not going to stop the immigration. It's not going to stop. You can build walls 200 feet high. It's not going to stop. You can find and fill all the tunnels. You're not going to do that. It's not going to stop. People are going to keep coming because primarily of the economics caused by climate change. If you look at Central America, where most of these immigrants are coming from nowadays, their climate has changed significantly to where there's droughts, to where they can't farm like they used to. They don't have the water supply like they used to. They have a lot of gangs causing problems, and they have authoritarian dictators who could give a damn about them and their lives. Okay, so that's what's been happening, and we've been fostering all of that for years. I mean, MS-13 started down there, but it came from guys that we sent back down there. It came from illegal immigrants that went back to the Honduras and El Salvador and different countries like that, and then started up their MS-13 and expanded it. And then, of course, a lot of them came back into California and then migrated elsewhere. But here's the problem with all that. If these countries had stable governments, which were by the people, for the people, and of the people, that would not be happening as much. I mean, there have been countries, I forget, there's one in particular where their president came in. Was it Honduras? I don't know. I'm not sure which one it was. He came in and he really cleaned things up. He put a lot of people in jail. Okay, well, I'm not necessarily for incarceration, but with these gangs, you have to do something with them. You have to sequester them. Well, the crime went way down. People weren't leaving as much. Now, I don't know what's going on in that country now, but it was very successful. So these kind of things need to happen. Other things like you want them to stay down there, send them some money, keep them down there. When the people come here, register them as workers, get them in Social Security, let them pay into Social Security, have them pay taxes. When you do all that, that doesn't hurt the economy. It helps the economy. And it helps businesses who can hire them, who need the workers. A lot of workers here, native workers, people from here, they don't want to work some of these jobs anymore. They don't want to. Well, that's their prerogative. That's their freedom to choose the kind of employment they want. Doesn't mean they won't be a wage slave when they get where they go. But, the thing of it is you get these workers here, they will work hard. they will mostly, more so than citizens, be law abiding. The statistics are there that prove that. I don't want to hear these stupid arguments that these ridiculous Republican idiots make. Okay, so we've always had these people that I guess in the 20s or something like over 20 million came, but they came and went. And we had an environment where they could do that. And that's what they need again. You know what? It costs a lot less to live in those countries. So if they make enough money to send it home and take care of their families, and if they can work here seasonally and do that and pay into our system, it's great. It's really good for us. Now, you may not like their culture. You may not like their language. There may be a lot of things that don't work for you. I understand that. I didn't like it at one time, but that was no reason for me to exclude these people from our economy when they're greatly helping it, when they have been a big boon to our economy. They're good for our economy. They're not bad for our economy. So I'm just trying to tell you folks, hey, the whole illegal immigration thing isn't as bad as being that's being put out to be. It's not that. It's not as bad. Okay, yeah, okay. So you don't like it? Well, maybe I don't like it sometimes either. But you know what? I don't see any adverse effects in my immediate community from it. Yeah, I see a bunch of guys hanging out over at Home Depot trying to get some work. Well, that doesn't bother me. They don't come up to me and beg for anything. They're trying to get work for the day so they can do whatever. I'm not against that. I'm for that. Um, so look, you guys, it's kind of a rough deal to not like these people. I mean, look at what they do in the meat packing plants. Pretty bad because what they're doing is illegal because they don't green card these people. Now, if they green carded them, they paid taxes, they paid into Social Security, that would be great. That would work out for everybody. And it wouldn't take any jobs away from U.S. citizens that didn't want to work. Okay. And then they have to pay them prevailing wage. That's what they have to do. Now, if they don't want to do that, then they don't hire them. Okay. Then they hire Americans. They hire citizens. Okay. And pay them a prevailing wage. There's no excuse for hiring people at under prevailing or under minimum wage and not reporting it. Now, that is a felony. That's criminal. And these businesses can be fined severely, so much so that some of them will get put out of business. Now, if you just give them green cards, if you let them work, if they pay Social Security, if they get a fair wage, a minimum wage, a decent minimum wage, it's going to really help the rest of our economy, and it's been proven to do so. You don't like it? Well, I'm sorry. That's too bad if you don't like it. But it's the best thing, and it's the easiest way. The other thing is, too, we need about 1,000 more immigration judges to handle all of that. Yes, we do. And we need a way to get these people out into the workforce, registered for Social Security, paying taxes, and having work visas. Yes, there's only like 3 people in the whole country that do green cards. 3 people. Now, a friend of mine recently got one. He's from France and from Lebanon. He recently got one of these visas, and it cost him, using private attorneys, over $30,000. That is ridiculous. That should not be happening. These work visas should be much easier and much more inexpensive to obtain. And if we have 1,000 judges that can work on this type of situation, if we have the personnel to do that, that'll take care of it. It'll be over with. And our economy will be helped. Yes, your economy will be helped. People will be putting into the economy. They'll be taxed. They'll pay Social Security and they'll pay into Medicare, and it'll keep our programs solvent, and it'll also give them a possible pathway to citizenship. Because let's face it, white people, you ain't making enough babies to keep up with all that. Now, that being said, this whole thing about repopulating and not being replaced is ridiculous. It's insane. And I'll tell you why. It doesn't matter what the color of someone's skin is or their ethnic origin or the language they speak. That doesn't matter. They're human beings. And they deserve the same rights and privileges that we all have. I don't care where in the hell they're from. Okay? They deserve it. And they should be able to obtain it. And that's what's wrong. We don't allow for that. We don't want people to come here and make good, even though a lot of people do. But a lot of these people are so afraid that these people are going to cause them physical harm, are going to take away from their employment ability. Well, a lot of these people that are bitching are my generation and they're retired. They don't need to worry about that shit. Okay. So that's all BS. These are just old bigoted slime balls that never grew up, just never grew up from the 60s and the 70s. Yeah, we had these beautiful times in the 60s and the 70s. We had free love. We had all kinds of cults. We had all kinds of communes and different experimental living choices, lifestyles. Okay, so a lot of it didn't work out, and people went back to being just regular old workers and doing the regular old American dream or nightmare, whatever you want to call it. And that's what happened. Okay, so a lot of people are pissed and they blame the government for all this. The problem with the government is who we elected. Yeah, okay, maybe we didn't have the choices to elect people that could affect things the way we need it for the benefit of most of us. But doing what the Republicans want to do, small, almost no government, no taxes. Well, that's great. I mean, I don't want to pay taxes. I don't like paying taxes. But you know what? I do like seeing us get roads and bridges and all those kind of things. All of our infrastructure, the police, the fire department, all these people, the post office, all these different agencies getting paid. Now, it may not be necessary to collect tax to do it, since the government can make as much money as it wants and it needs to run the country. Okay, so that might look bad for a deficit. Now, there's a lot of argument about that. And me not being a modern monetary theory economist, I'm not going to be able to argue that effectively. However, I do think that the application of modern monetary theory is totally necessary for us. I think it's something we must do. We must implement it further. When Stephanie Kelton was helping out over in the Obama administration, I think we made some progress. I don't think she made as much progress as she would have liked to, but I'd like to see more of that implemented, studied, brought about to help most of us. Because we're still under the belief, okay, you need money to help out the population. Okay. Yeah. Now, one way is that businesses come and they employ people and they pay them wages. And then the other way was that we believe that the government taxes us on our wages and on our purchases. Okay. But do we really need that to pay for what we need? Do we? It kind of looks like we don't. Kind of looks like that in modern monetary theory, if we need money, we just make the money. The government can print up the money and distribute it. People will spend it. It'll go back in the economy. Makes everything very robust. And so for public works, the government makes money to do that. They print money to do that with. Oh, we can't do that though, because that makes the government too big. Does it? Or does it keep the government out of taxing? Okay, big argument. A lot of people don't want to go for it. Then there's that whole group of people that just don't want any taxes and they want businesses to run everything and fuck everybody who doesn't take part. That's what they think. They think, well, if you don't want to take part, well, that's how it goes. So that's what's going on. That's why the libertarian ideology doesn't work. The way the present system is, we have to have taxation. Okay, we have the way it works now. We could do less of it if we could, And here's the other thing: debt forgiveness. You guys need to listen to Michael Hudson. He's kind of crazy in some of his ideas, but I think he's right. You get too far in debt. If the government agency gets too far, yeah, just forgive the debt. Like Biden attempted to do with student debt, just forgive it. Forgive it. Well, what does that do? That lets the students who were burdened by all this ridiculous debt. Okay, yeah, so the debt finally goes to the federal government to pay for things. Okay, well, that's great. That's good that revenue is coming in. However, what it also does is it keeps people who graduated from school who had a big school burden. And I don't care if the guy's a lawyer and it was 200,000, or a doctor and it was 200,000, or if it was somebody that was 20, 30,000. Forgive it all for everybody, and that money will go back into the economy. And you can even work a program that gives them tax credit against the debt for the money they spend. Right. For the money they spend that they don't have to put into, that means they have to spend the money that they were putting out for the loans. Okay. You could do that. Maybe they were doing some of that. I don't remember. Here's the situation. Forgive all that debt. And take these credit card companies. The hell with them. Make them clear all the debt, especially debt that's over so old and has just gotten to be ridiculous, where the principal was paid off years ago. That has to be forgiven. Oh, we can't do that because, these are companies and they're more important than the people. Oh my. No, they're not. No, they're not. Nothing is more important than the people. We are the most important part of all of this. And that's why this all needs to change in that direction. And believe me, you guys, your big strongman buddy who got the tip of his ear clipped, which is really sad. That shouldn't have happened. I mean, I have to deplore that. But this guy is not going to do what I'm talking about doing. He's not going to do it. No, he's not. He's only going to feather the beds of the supporters, primarily the big money supporters, like he did last time. The rest of you, it's just like he said. He said, I want your vote. I don't care about you. I want your vote.